Hello everyone and welcome back to another YI, and this time we are talking about V-Rising. Now vampire games are great for the most part. They're a power fantasy, aren't they? For the player, or where you get to be a creature of the night, wielding your supernatural abilities to tear your foes to pieces, seduce some hot people and dress pretty stylishly. Granted, some vampire games are stinkers, but for the majority of releases they're fun at the very least. V-Rising is in that fun category for me. A blend of base building, survival, tough boss battles, equipment upgrading, and, if you want, depending on the server, multiplayer battling. V-Rising isn't doing anything completely new or mind-blowing, but all of those ingredients together work pretty well. The narrative isn't too in-depth. There is a story, if you really want to, take part in it, I guess. You don't have to deep dive the lore, though, to have fun with it. The basic is that Dracula once ran the place, but after a great uprising and war with the humans of the Church of Luminance, he's defeated, and he showers the land in a blood rain that corrupts all those who experience it in his magic. Some people become empowered by this blood rain, some become monsters, some are in between. And each of these people who are affected are the bosses that you as the player will hunt down across the entire game's world as you aim to harvest this V-blood, as it's called, to become stronger and unlock new window drapes. Your vampire character is out to harvest this to become the new vampire lord, and that means going up against any number of different factions from bandits, militia, crusaders, other vampires, tech cultists, yes, ghosts, werewolves, and even a newly introduced invading faction. The writing keeps the game a deep shade of grey. Most boss descriptions, if not all of them, heavily emphasise that these people, or the monsters, used to be decent people, but have since become more violent, repugnant, or just evil since the whole Blood Rain event, and you shouldn't really feel bad about killing them to boost your own power. Not that your characters are probably good guys either. Basically, no one in this world is good. Power is all that matters, and having a sweet vampire castle as well to decorate for hours on end as you unlock a variety of items ranging from rugs, drapes, candles, door styles, windows, wallpapers, and a hell of a lot more. And seriously, some bosses are just there to unlock a new way to look moody in the castle, and the game has some pretty eye-wateringly expensive cosmetic DLC, which is a bit crap, given that the game isn't free to play. You've got to pay for it anyway. But that said, the world map is pretty large. It covers many different terrain types. You've got like your deep forests, cozy farmlands, some blasted battlefields here and there, frozen mountains with a couple of horrific creatures in it, irradiated industrial sites, spooky swamps, and even some rocky mesas. Each zone has their own location in them, or locations, so that you can set up shop, and even if you don't like where you currently are, you can always choose to teleport your entire castle to a new location after you clear the area of all the debris and trees. Trust me, you definitely want to clear an area of that before you move your castle anywhere else. Location is important. You'll generally want to be pretty close to wherever your next objective is going to be, leaving the lower level areas behind. Fast travelling is available though. You can find teleports dotted around the map, but you can't teleport back with all your loot. Some items are just not available to be teleported. That means you've got to trek back on foot. So if you are, say, in the very bottom of the map where the game starts, the Farbane Woods, and you've trekked all the way, let's say, north of the Dunley farmlands in the middle of the map, that's quite a trek back without being able to teleport, for instance. So moving your castle can be quite important. That said, though, I can only speak from my personal experience, and this is from Cooperative, and honestly, the game is pretty fun overall. The core loop of it is base building or expanding your base, then resource harvesting, getting your equipment upgraded, and then going out to hunt bosses as you upgrade your equipment. Each new piece of equipment will increase your power level overall. That makes you more comparable to your next foe, and as you defeat those and you drain their blood, you get a sense for the game's level scaling. Stats are extremely basic. You don't need to worry about loot drops or re-rolling stats on a majority of weapons and armor because the combat is nearly entirely skill-based. Sure, an iron sword is fairly weak compared to a merciless iron sword, but a good grasp of the combat can help avoid big damaging attacks from bosses, and you get your hits in when the gaps appear. Also similar to Dark Souls, you can't just stand there and hack and slash opponents while tanking hits. Despite being a vampire, you're actually quite squishy, and enough blunt force trauma will eventually down you. Your powers are essential though, and you can use them to control the field, and obviously keeping aggro, being able to kite enemies around, that kind of thing. And powers come in the form of different categories from blood, chaos, lightning, illusion, frost, and necromancy. I can't remember if there's another one, and each of these have a different style of play attached to them. The one that they all share, though, is a common combat skill set that's necessary for survival, being in the form of dashing abilities, some type of ability to shield or absorb damage, and then a handful of attacking or buff spells that are unique to each type. As I said before, though, depending on the category of spells you have, you'll have different tactics to approach any boss fight with. And the cool thing is that you can actually mix and match any spells for any kind of combination that suits your style of play. If you like, for instance, the ability to summon minions like I do in a pinch, go for Necromancy, where they spawn skeleton warriors or mages to fight for you briefly. Life Leeching can heal you or support your team in the blood spell categories, for instance. Illusion will do things like debuffing your enemies. Lightning will be able to do things like damage over time. Chaos can ignite, causing enemies to take fire damage and leave areas of the ground as kind of like burning embers. That kind of thing. Obviously, Frost will have an emphasis on defense and allow you to freeze enemies in place briefly or be able to absorb more damage, that kind of thing. I imagine many of the skills, though, are based around the PvP interplay as well, where certain team combinations are quite useful for doing castle raids or to hunt other players. But they do work quite well in the cooperative sort of sphere of things. You can do a quick retool of your skills, and you can make bosses or enemy types a lot easier to deal with because different builds are available for every boss. But for anyone who's less inclined to just do fighting all the time, the castle side of things is pretty in-depth. As you progress through the research tree and the boss encounters, you'll start to rack up an impressive assortment of different decorative items, covering, as I mentioned before, quite a long list. Every room by late game can be customized with their own tables and chairs, lighting, wallpapers, flooring, rugs, shelves, pictures. There's a lot. And for those players who do like to spend hours meticulously detailing their digital abode, let's say, V-Rising does have plenty on offer, and it has an emphasis as a single-player experience. It can be one of the more relaxing parts of the game. Planning your next big renovation, when you can upgrade the castle heart to expand the number of tiles that you can build out to, can allow you to add more rooms or floors to your castle, because it can be multi-tiered as well. It's pretty fun, and what starts as a kind of makeshift square hovel with your workbench, furnace and tannery will become a lavish temple to your inner interior decorator. Granted, the theme has to be Castlevania with a dash of Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, but it's pretty decent overall, thematically. I can't remember the last time I had to sort of agonize over what the drapes looked like in the upstairs hallway, that they wouldn't clash with my ebonite stairs that led down into the parlour, which then connected to the study. Possibly The Sims, but who knows. Regardless, the out-of-combat options are there for you if you want to play some of the game but not always be roughing it up with the peasantry or battling monsters in the deepest pits of hell. Speaking of which, though, the boss designs are pretty great. Each and every one of them is quite unique as an encounter, and given how many there are in the game, it's quite a feat. V-Rising pits you against everything from disgruntled mine foremen to mad scientists to behemoth monsters of the frozen waste to vampire lords and everything in between, really. Some bosses are also quite creative with their attacks, like there's a glass-blowing boss who will use superheated globs of glass that she spreads on the battlefield, and then when she blows on them very hard, they cool rapidly and shatter, and those explode across the arena. Or there's even like one of them is a ghost blacksmith who will call upon some of his own past works to attack you as a kind of animated weapon. And there's even like kind of silly bosses like a sommelier who, and his entire boss fight just becomes an arena minigame where you have to dodge barrels and also like duel him at the same time. To be fair, the team did really think about having quite a mix of fun and silly battles. I mean, there's even boss battles where the bosses themselves don't actually fight. They kind of drag you around the map into enemies, forcing you to have to kind of deal with your pursuers, but also keep an eye on them to make sure you don't lose track of them. Because if you get too far away from a boss, they do the thing where they just get all their health back and all of your effort is wasted. Let's see. So I should probably mention that the game's world also has a day and night cycle, as it should. The night time is longer, and obviously your best time to be moving around, but you can move around during the day. You don't have to go to sleep in a coffin. It just comes with the extra hurdle of sunlight, which, if you spend too long in it, will set you on fire. You can mitigate sun damage with potions and other equipment that will reduce the amount of, increase the amount of time before you catch fire. And you have to basically move between shadows, which are cast by bits of the environment running into underneath trees or by bits of buildings or rocks, that kind of thing. But there's also like dynamic cloud banks that travel across the map, and if you stay within them, you're relatively safe. And if you want to give yourself an extra challenge, you can fight any boss any time. So if you want to fight them during the day, have at it if you want an extra level of challenge. I mean, speaking of difficulty, the game as a base setup can be quite challenging as well. But if you want to make the game harder, you can. There are default settings for that. But there's also options to make the game easier as well, should you just want a slightly more relaxed experience, or at least a far less punishing one. It's not to say some bosses still aren't difficult, even on the easy settings. You can tweak your own server settings. It's called server settings, but it's basically just how the game is set up. If you want to play it single player, you can change any of these how you want before you start your game. But you can do things like you can increase the stack sizes for resources, taking them up to like 200 to 300% as a stack. You can turn off things like item degradation, which honestly is one of the things I hate in games. So you don't have to keep rebuilding your weapons and armor as you use them. You can reduce the damage you receive. You can increase your hit points. Well, I think you can, or you can reduce their hit points, those kind of things. So there's quite a few different things you can tinker with. Also, recently there was a 1.1 edition that was called The Invaders of Oakvale, which has an entire new section called the Oakvale Woods that has its own new set of enemy types, its own bosses, its own resources now. And all of these sort of integrate into the game's progression system, so those bosses are now integrated with the existing line of bosses, which have their own unlocks, which work with the game's materials to allow you to further customize and tweak stuff as you go along. And it was a free edition, which was really good, because obviously nowadays, in today's gaming market, big editions like that are usually like paid expansions, so hats off to the devs on that one. It's really cool. But there's a lot of other stuff that I haven't really touched on. But there's things where you can craft potions that will give you buffs. There is a kind of loot rolling mechanic for trying to get rare weapons. There's only like late game where you can get what's called ancestral weapons, where you go to these to a particular location to sort of basically defeat mini bosses to get drops, and those will have a random roll on what their bonuses are. And really that's the most in-depth you can get, I suppose you can say, about having to get loot drops in the game. Again, more of an emphasis on the PvP side of things, if you just want an ancestral weapon because it gives you a higher damage stat overall. That's mainly what you need it for. But yeah, in the PvP side, it's probably one of the late game things you'd be grinding a lot. But yeah, there are lots of other little things in there. There is a ton in V Rising, but I think I've rambled on long enough now. So to summarise, it's a good game overall. Technically, for me, it ran really smooth the entire time. Didn't have any crashes, didn't glitch, no bugs. If you are a fan of these kinds of open world PvP games where you work with groups of other players or on your own, then you'll probably like it for the kind of the siege mentality of like attacking other players' bases and raiding them and stealing loot, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think the servers can hold, I think it's like 40 or 60 players. It's a decent number, and I think there's a max size, so I think it's like maybe 4 or 6 players per clan. So you can have quite a few groups of players running around on those on the map, and the map is fairly large with loads of different build sites for your base. So yeah, you'll be, in that regard, you'd be competing against them for like fighting the bosses, gathering the resources, and also like, you know, securing the best place for your for your castle. But as a single player or co-op experience, it's really good. It has a nice sedate pace, or whatever pace you really want to play it at. Everything can be tackled when you want to, which is really good. So overall, I give V Rising a thumbs up, and I'll leave it there. So Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good week, and I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, have a good one all. Bye-bye.